Hey everybody, this is Tommy and Kimberly from Ravens Creek, and today we want to bring you just a little bit of Ravens food.
Today, we want to talk to you about Jesus. But not just about Jesus, but how Jesus talks about himself. You see, nowadays, we have this thing where we tend to call Jesus the Son of God. It's a very common phrase. Even the atheists have picked up upon it and tried to manipulate it and show how the phrase shows up in other parts of history and how it's not that great of a title. But the interesting thing is, when Jesus talks about himself, he doesn't call himself the Son of God, he calls himself the Son of Man. So, what does this mean? What is the contrast? And what do each of them represent? Are they bringing forth the same idea?
So when you go to the Old Testament, you find both of these phrases used in different ways. So for example, the Son of God is used of Israel in Exodus 4. You see that in Luke, certainly it's hinted at, but in the genealogy of Jesus in Luke, Luke goes back to Adam and calls Adam the Son of God. Now you have also in the Old Testament this Son of Man figure. You have like in Daniel chapter 7, the Son of Man ascends to the right hand of God, but you also have the prophets being called the Son of Man. So these concepts are something that are in the Old Testament and not simply a new phenomenon that suddenly comes up out of nowhere in the New Testament.
Now, with the prophets, when they're called Son of Man, we find that the prophets in their day, in their generation, they were somebody who God could go to and he could really share his heart with them, even if everyone else seemed to be just going along with the flow. Those who were supposed to be righteous aren't really acting righteous, and those who have the correct religion are not following God's statutes, but instead they're following traditions of man. God can go to his prophets and say, Son of Man, have you seen this? So when we see Jesus using this phrase, calling himself the Son of Man, it's almost like he's saying he's willing to stand in the midst of his generation and be someone who God's willing to share his heart with.
With both of these terms, Son of God and Son of Man, we see them both stemming essentially from the same place. Essentially, Adam being called the Son of God, when you tie this together with other places in the Bible, such as with the kings, it was spoken of the kings whether they were like their father David or not like their father David. David would have been a son of Abraham, even though Abraham's not his biological father in the sense of he begot David. There's generations in between the two. So with Jesus, you have him as being the Son of Man, the son of Adam, but in that he's also the Son of God because Adam was the Son of God. And so you have this term, it's showing what was promised to Adam, that there would be this seed of the woman, this deliverer, this one who's supposed to come, the Mashiach, who would be the chosen one to bring the people, to bring all of humanity back into the garden, back into right relationship before God. This is the one who's summed up in the term Son of God and Son of Man.
More than for argument's sake, one of the reasons that we want to bring this up is there's something to consider. There are these ways that we talk about God and we talk about the Bible, but what's really interesting is the way that God talks about himself and the way that God talks about his word. So when Jesus says something like Son of Man, instead of calling himself Son of God, which he could have, because he certainly would have understood the term, he's really trying to hint something at us when he's laying down this example before us. It's something to be aware of as we're traveling down this messy, unclean journey.